Hello, welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on January 16, 2022. Earlier today, yeah, I bet you thought I was going to say a couple days ago or a few days ago, but no, earlier today, I was listening to a talk show, and talk show host said something that really brought back a old buried memory. The talk show host said, "You know how we often tell old people to uh, just think younger, to be young in their mind. As long as they feel young, then they will be young. But maybe rather than telling old people to think younger, what we need to do is to tell younger people to start thinking older instead. Because young people today are way too serious." That may sound like a bit of a nonsense to some people, but when you really think about it, it makes sense because young people, what's going on with young people? I mean, obviously, I'm talking about young people who are on the proper, like, rightful path of growing up and learning things and becoming useful citizens. I'm not talking about the hoodlums and drug addicts and young people uh, who are doing illegal things. Although one can definitely argue that something is dreadfully wrong with a society when young people as 14, 15 years old end up being alcoholic or drug addict or uh, self-mutilating because they feel that that's the only way they can cope with their life. Something dreadfully going on with the society. Now, some of them do it because they think it's cool. Some of them do it because it's the peer pressure. Then okay, that's a totally different kettle of fish. That's them being stupid. But there are a lot of young people who go down the wrong path, get addicted to something because of the immense pressure and problems they face in their life, they face at home. I know because when I was a teenager, I faced a lot of those problems. I never became addicted to anything, but as I mentioned before, that's more like a specific genetic makeup than any amazing feat of willpower on my part. I once heard that there's a specific group of people that are genetically hard to get addicted to things. And I do believe that I am one of those people that my genetic makeup is lacking a certain something that allow me to be addicted to things easily. Maybe that is a good thing, maybe that is a bad thing, but that is neither here or there. The point is, when we look at young people, majority young people, they spend their days going to school, coming home, doing after school programs, trying to excel in school, trying to do activities that would make them look cool in front of their friend, and try to learn this, learn that, figuring out all the nuances, new angles life is throwing at them, figuring out what they want to do after they finish school. And you go through school for 12, 13, 14 long years. Finally, after you're done, you think it's over? No, you either have to find a job, which is a whole new set of challenges, or you got to figure out what you want to go to do in college or university, which is, wow, just as much pressure as anything else. And then after that, now you finished your university course, you got to look for work, and then you got to spend the rest of your life trying to pay back your student loan. And it's just a really vicious, really hard road for a lot of young people to be on. So no wonder that more and more young people today are just so unhappy, so unable to cope. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed who are, like, if we look at age group and geographical population, what group of people, which group of people are generally speaking the happiest in the world? Answer: the group of people that are generally the happiest in the world are men after retirement age. In my language, they are called 大爷. 大爷 means old uncle, uh, uh, old guy. Uh, these 大爷, these old guys, they are retired. They usually paid off their mortgage. They usually got all the relationship and marriage issues far behind them. They got kids and grandkids. They worked all their lives, so they don't feel like they owe anything to the society. Now that they're retired, as long as they're healthy, now this is one condition, as long as they're healthy. This will come back again later in this conversation. Uh, so as long as they're healthy, they are the happiest group of people in the world, in this society. They don't feel like they need to do anything productive because they just spent their whole life being productive. They have done most of the things they set out to do, and now all they have to do every day is whatever they feel like doing. They can get up in the morning, eat breakfast, go out for a walk, or go fishing, or go to the gym, or go have a nice morning swim, and then come home, take a early little snooze, wake up, eat lunch, take another snooze, and then afternoon they can uh, play with their pets or do things on the computer or whatever they want to do, work in the garden. And then it's dinner time. After dinner time, they watch the news and then have a cup of wine or a glass of whiskey and go to bed. That is like paradise to a lot of people to be able to do that every day. And if they really get bored, which a lot of them do, they can volunteer. And the beauty about volunteering is you're not getting paid, so you're doing everything out of the goodness of your own heart, which means people have to respect you because the moment they disrespect you, the moment they make you unhappy, you don't have to do it. You're not getting paid anyway. You don't have to do it if it makes you unhappy. I love volunteer work because I am essentially the boss. you can't you can't force me to do anything I don't want to do if I'm here as a volunteer. So this group of people, the 大爷, the retired men, that they are generally speaking the happiest group of people in the world. Now, this may sound a little sexist. And people say, well, what about the women? What about the women of retirement age? Um, from various research, it's shown that women don't enjoy that period of their life as much as men. Partly because a lot of women, their big part of what makes them feel worthwhile, a big part of what makes them feel strong and accomplished is their youth and their beauty. Uh, and So, I mean, it is possible to still be fit and beautiful and all that stuff when you are retirement age. Don't get me wrong. I've definitely met some females of that age who still uh, can come across like they're in their 40s or 50s, but that takes a lot of hard work. It does. Like, these are people that go out and run every day or play tennis every day, swim for 2 kilometers every day, and go on this diet and that diet and stuff like that. Um, our body, no matter what you do, there's a limit. There's a limit. When you get old, some things going to be sagging, some things going to be shrinking, some things going to be wrinkling. So a lot of women, when they get to this age group, they are very unhappy. They become very bitter because they no longer feel attractive. They no longer feel that they are valuable because they're a big chunk of what they makes them feel they're valuable is tied up in vitality, in the ability to bear children, in the ability to turn people's face, to make people look at them and all that stuff. Um, and on top of that, unlike a lot of retired men who feel that, well, I just worked my whole life. I did this, and that. I don't need to be very productive. I can lay around do nothing all day if I want to. A lot of women, when they get to this age group, they feel like they need to be the matriarch. They need to be the mother hen. They take on their daughter's problem, take on their granddaughter's problem, they take on their great granddaughter's problem, they take on their son's problem, their grandson's problem. And if there's no children, they take on the neighbor's problem. They become the matronly person who is in charge of the local church gathering. They take care of the lunch and the dinner and the community activity, everything. So they end up taking on way too much and get all stressed out in the end. Of course, some men are prone to doing things like this, but most men, when they get to this retirement age, they're much more self-centered. If I feel like it today, I'll help you guys with this, and that. If I don't feel like it tomorrow, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to say no to everybody. Uh, they don't feel bad. They don't feel obligated because they already spent their whole life working, uh, uh, struggling, building, accomplishing. A lot of them, by the time they get to retirement age, some people say they're a bit of a a-hole. Some people say they're self-centered, and yes, they are. But they already paid their dues to the world. They deserve to put themselves first. So when I heard that this talk show host said young people should think older, and young people are too serious, this immediately bring to mind something from a distant past, something that I myself have said that ran basically in the same line. Back in early 2000s, I think I was 21 years old, I was 22 years old, something like that. I got called upon to speak at a, a presentation, like a motivational speech for young blind students. Uh, my topic was what advice would I give to students in their 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. How would I help them achieve success like I had? How would I help them in finding the right path? What would I say to them? And I think I shocked most of the parents and teachers in the audience with what I said, and totally uh, impressed the younger kids, the students in the audience at the same time. Because most people expected me to say things that other speakers before me and after me said, which was your very standardized. You got to work hard. We got to make sure that if you run into hardship, you do not give up. You got to make sure that you communicate, you stand up for yourself, you got to be assertive, which, by the way, are all very good advices. They're all very good advices, but they're advices that you can find on YouTube. They're advices that you can find anywhere. You open a book in the library about how to reach success. These will be among the first 10 things you'll read. When it was my turn, I mean, yeah, I'm very long-winded, and I was very long-winded even back then. But my biggest, strongest point was, uh, I know that most of you come here and wanting to get some nuggets of wisdom from me about how to be successful and how to go to a successful school, how to accomplish your goal, how to set a dream, and all that stuff. But I don't want to talk to you about that because there's a lot of others here more qualified than I am to say, tell you that kind of stuff. And today I want to give you the best piece of advice I can give you that maybe other people are reluctant to give you. This advice is have fun while you can. Don't work too hard. Don't take life too seriously. Now that you're young, now that you got energy, now that you got time, now nothing is overly serious. Take that chance, have fun, and experience life. Explore, find out where your strengths are, find out what is fun for you, and enjoy life while you can. Now, of course, I said a lot more, but that's basically the point I made to them. Like I said, teachers and parents didn't like it, but the young people really fell in with that. And I remember years years later, on the bus, I run into children, kids, now no longer children, now grown up. They'll come up to me on the bus and say how much they took away from that speech I gave, how much that resonated with them. What I think is most uh, remarkable was I was only 21 years old, 22 years old, and already I realized this very important fundamental thing about life is you need to live it, you need to enjoy it, you need to experience it. Growing up as a Buddhist, this would have gone so much against my Buddhist teaching because as a Buddhist, we were led to believe that life is nothing but a sea of suffering. We are here to pay off the debt we owe to karma. We are all here because we did something horrible in our previous life. That's why we reincarnate, and if we suffer, we deserve to suffer. We are not here to have fun. We are not here to enjoy it because every time we have fun, every time we enjoy things, then we are racking up more bad karma indirectly. So we are here to suffer as much as we can, so next life will be better. That's basic. I mean, there's a whole lot more to Buddhism, but that's basically the thing I grew up believing as a Buddhist, a disciple of Buddha. So, what exactly got me onto this idea so early, so young about life? What made me believe that this was the way? What made me still believe that this is the way, that life is meant to be enjoyed, that life is not supposed to be about suffering today so you can enjoy tomorrow? Um, I think we can boil it all down to uh, three very simple things that I observed at an early age. One is myself at an early age. At the age of 3 years old, I almost died from Steven Johnson syndrome. And then after that, for the for the next uh, 5, 6 years, it was surgery after surgery, blood test after blood test, checkup after checkup, uh, all kind of tests, all kind of diagnostic, all kind of experiments being performed on me. It seemed like I lived in hospitals more than I lived at home. It seemed like I was always being prodded, being poked, being examined uh, by all kind of different specialists. So from an early age, I knew suffering. Uh, after after that, once I turned 9 years old, I went through abuse. I went through a very confused kind of teenage years where, as a blind person in a foreign country, I had to try to find my equilibrium in an abusive family, and then ended up being in foster home, and then ended up living off the street, being homeless for a while, running with the wrong side of society, homeless people, gangsters, drug addicts, all that stuff. I knew suffering. I won't say I knew suffering more than anyone else, but I will say I knew suffering like how most people wouldn't have known it. I knew more suffering than a lot of people could reasonably be expected to. So from an early age, I knew that this whole idea of I got to deprive myself, I got to suffer today. So maybe 40 years I can buy a house. Or maybe 20 years I can go on a cruise and travel the world. It's nonsense. There's enough suffering in the world. There's enough suffering in my own life. That it doesn't make sense for me to go out of my way to make myself suffer because I don't know. I don't know if there is going to be a 20 years later. I don't know if there's going to be a 40 years later. I don't know if Stephen Johnson syndrome was something else or coronavirus going to suddenly happen in 2020. I didn't know anyway. So this whole idea of telling our children, telling ourselves, telling our whoever we give advice to that you got to deprive yourself, you got to uh, uh, do without today so you can have it tomorrow. It's pure nonsense. You don't even know if you'll have a tomorrow. Just worry about today, shall we? Number two, I've seen so many people in my life, even at that early age, uncles, grandfathers, uh, grandpa, uh, elders in the family, elders in the family's friend that worked hard their whole life. And then, in the end, did they get to enjoy life? No. In the end, they spent the latter part of their life going to doctors because their backs all messed up, their knees all messed up, their hips all messed up. They got Alzheimer's, they got dementia, they got diabetes because they never stopped long enough to enjoy life and actually took care of themselves. They spent their life work, 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 working in the office, working in the field, working on the farm. After they come home, they got to be the handyman. They got to be the one making decisions. They got work, 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 working for company, working for employers, working for their family. Finally, when they couldn't work anymore, then they spent the rest of their life being sick, 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 and sick. I swore to myself I didn't want to be like my grandfather. I didn't want to be like my grandpa. I didn't want to be like my uncles. I didn't want to be like my great uncle. I didn't want to be any of these old guys that regret not taking a minute to enjoy life when they were only 65 years old and almost nothing on their body was working. Number three, the third thing that steered me onto this strong belief that life has to be enjoyed now, not tomorrow, was just looking at the examples we're given by some of the most hardworking people, most famous people. I'm going to give you three people that you will doubtlessly have heard of. All three of them immensely famous, all three of them immensely hardworking because don't get it wrong, you don't become that famous without working hard. I'm not even that famous. I work very hard. So I know to be as famous as these guys, you have to be really, really willing to sacrifice a lot. Number one, Michael Jackson, perhaps the best in doing what he did. No one else before him, hardly anyone after him, can claim to be as good as Michael Jackson in being Michael Jackson. Now, personally, I was never a Michael Jackson fan. I thought him a very weird dude. But I could, and I do, totally respect the height of fame he achieved and the ability that he had to sing and dance and do all kind of crazy stuff with his body. If you look at Michael Jackson's biography, he never had a childhood. His whole life was about working hard, working hard, working hard. He's staying on top, looking for that new way to keep his fame going. Sometimes we might think, oh, well, he's so rich, he had a lot of fun. But I think most of the time, he really was more concerned with media attention and lawsuits, scandals, new albums, new dance moves, music videos, appearances, concerts. I doubt he really had any time to actually enjoy himself. Michael Jackson, one of the hardest working people in this world, uh, died at the age of 50. Now, can you imagine if he believed that he should work this hard so he could have fun once he retired? He probably would be kicking himself wherever he is now. Elvis Presley, one of the most influential rock and roll superstar in modern history, hardworking, very, very hardworking. Um, and yes, he had a lot of problem with drug and was a womanizer and all that stuff, but he was good in his field, one of the best, and very hardworking. Again, you can't be that famous and that good in your field without putting in the work. So you don't just get born into it. Um, Elvis Presley died at the age of 42. He definitely did not live long enough to enjoy tomorrow. Bruce Lee. For most people, Bruce Lee should be like the idol of every martial artist. And believe me, I have been asked many, many times, Johnny Tiger, do you think you do you think you can be as good as Bruce Lee? My answer is a little bit conceited, I know, but it's the truth. If I wanted to be, yes, I think I could be as good as Bruce Lee if I was willing to sacrifice as much as he did. If I was willing to put in that much work, I think I could be at least as good as him. But I'm not willing to. Bruce Lee, one of the best in modern martial art legends, made movies, taught classes, wrote books, died at the age of 32. Bruce Lee was so hardworking that if you look at his biography, that he didn't do anything for fun. Bruce Lee never did anything for fun. I really feel sorry for the guy. Now we can go on and on for the entire night with examples, but the point remains that there are just too many hardworking people, rich people, successful people that didn't live long enough to enjoy tomorrow. And I refuse to be one of them. I want to enjoy my life and I want to enjoy it now. I remember a few years ago, this was actually on in a Chinese newspaper as kind of a funny column. But for me, this was more sad than funny. Apparently, in elementary school, a teacher asked her student to get to the front of the class and talk about what they wanted to do when they grow up. And a lot of the kids were the like conventional stuff, I want to be a scientist, I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to own a farm, I'm going to be a policeman. And then there's one student who went to the front of the class and said, when I grow up, I want to retire. Let's just think about it. It's like elementary school age kid. He already want to retire. We can just imagine how much pressure this kid has been under, how much has been him being forced to work hard, to study hard, that he, at this young, tender age, already feels so tired that he can't wait to grow up to retire.